Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Professor David J. De Los Reyes. My topic for this morning will be the so-called how to check a bridge diode. Uh, Bridge diode is just an electronic component which converts alternating current to direct current. Many of us are doing the troubleshooting, but sometimes uh, the proper way or procedure on how to check if the diodes inside a bridge diodes are still good or not. To show you a bridge diode, this is a bridge diode. It got 4 terminals. This one here, this is the first one, second one, third one, and fourth one. The first one is actually the positive terminal. Positive terminal meaning the output current of this one actually comes out on this positive terminal. It goes to the load and it goes back to the negative terminal. It passes through the negative terminal, then it goes back to either line number 1 or number 2. Line number 2 and 3 are actually the alternating current lines, meaning the lines coming from the utility line. Okay, I would like to bring out the schematic diagram of the diodes inside a bridge rectifier, because there are 4 diodes inside a bridge rectifier. This is the schematic diagram of the bridge diodes inside. I hope you could see it. This is the diode number 1, diode number 2, diode number 3, and diode number 4. This is the plus terminal. This is the negative terminal. So connected between the plus terminal and the negative terminal is the load. Load meaning any gadget which needs direct current. The one inside the diagram. So it could be any gadget that needs direct current. This is line number 1. This is line number 2. These lines here are the one coming from the utility lines. So I place it here, line number 1 alternating, line number 2 alternating. The the flow of the current for a bridge diode, it is something like this. For the positive alternation, current will be coming from line number 1. Okay, line number 1. So this terminal here is designated as line number 1. The one on the third one. Okay, it passes through diode number 1. It passes through the positive terminal. Then the load current for the first alternation, it passes through the load, the one with the dark arrow. It will come out on the negative terminal. And it will pass through diode number 2, the one with the black arrow. It goes back to this terminal here. This terminal is actually line number 1. The second alternating current lines. I will repeat it. It will follow this arrow here. It passes through diode number 1. It passes through the load. It passes through diode number 2, then go back to line number 2. That's for the positive alternation. For the negative alternation, it will be a different flow of current. The current will be emanating from line number 2. It will enter this junction here. It will pass through diode number 3. It will enter the positive terminal. It will pass through the load. it will come out at terminal number negative terminal, then it will pass through diode number 4, then go back to line number 1. That's for the negative alternation. So to check the individual diodes, we will be placing the positive terminal on line number 1. Okay, then we'll try to connect the negative terminal to this positive terminal here. And the diode should have a reading less than 1 volt. It's a 0.45 something. Okay, so I will try to do it. To check the diodes inside, I must have to use a multi-tester. It will be set on the diode testing. It will be set on the diode testing. There's the icon of the diode here, meaning to say, these two terminals, when it's connected to a diode, it will check a diode. But it should be with the correct polarity. I will connect the positive terminal to line number 1. Line number 1 is this one. Okay? And the other terminal will be on the positive terminal. Okay? The reading should be 0.454 or 0.481 volts. With this connection, I am checking diode number 1. I am checking diode number 1, this one. So we place the positive terminal here. When we place the negative terminal here. Okay? For this diode number 1 to conduct, this terminal here should be positive and this should be negative. That's why I place the line number 1 with the positive terminal, and the negative terminal will be at the positive terminal. This is the positive terminal, the one on the edge. This is line number 1. This should be positive and this should be negative, and there should be a reading. And the reading is 0.458. Okay. To check diode number 2, or diode number 3, to check diode number 3, we'll remove or we'll disconnect the positive terminal and we connect it to line number 2. Okay, so line number 2 now, or the positive terminal is now connected with line number 2. Line number 2 meaning the one coming from the utility line. We maintain the negative terminal on the positive terminal, and there should be a reading. And the reading is still 0.482. So in here, the second reading, we place the positive terminal on line number 2 and the negative terminal of the tester on the plus side. So actually we are checking this diode number 3 and there should be reading. Because for this diode number 3 to conduct, this should be plus and this should be minus, and there should be a reading. So we check that diode number 1 is alive and diode number 3 is alive. To check the other two diodes, that is diode number 2 and number 4, we change polarity. We change polarity. We will be placing the positive terminal on the negative terminal. The negative terminal is actually the first one, this one. To check the other two, we place the positive terminal here. Okay. And to check diode number 4, if this is plus, okay, this line number 1 should be minus to check diode number 4. So I will check, I will place the negative terminal on line number 1. So as you can see it, there is still a reading. It's not the same as the first one. It's almost the same. Because the first one is actually 0.48 and this is 0.47. we plus the positive terminal on the negative terminal and the negative terminal on line number 1. That's why if this is plus and this is minus, we will be checking diode number 4. And as per the connection, the reading is 0.470. It is correct. Okay. To check diode number 2, this one. We maintain still this one negative terminal to be positive, and we will place the negative terminal on line number 2. So we'll just, the first one is line number 2, and the second one is line number 1. So, hold on. This is now line number 2. Okay? We maintain the positive terminal on the negative terminal, meaning the positive terminal of the tester on the negative terminal, and the black terminal on line number 2, and the reading is still 0.486. Okay? So that's the way how to check a bridge diode if they are still intact. Okay? Just be sure that the polarity in which you will be connecting it will be correct. Because to check diode number 1, line number 1 should be positive and this positive terminal should be negative on the tester. Right? We will check diode number 1. Okay? And to check diode number 2, okay, we will place the positive terminal on line number 2. We maintain the negative terminal on the positive side, so we will be checking diode number 3. Okay? Because for this to conduct, this should be positive and this should be negative. For the other two, it's the reverse. This negative terminal here should be connected to the positive terminal of the tester. Okay? Because for this to conduct, this should be plus. So if we connect the plus terminal of the tester here and the negative terminal here, we will be checking diode number 4. And if we try to place the positive terminal still on the negative terminal, and we will make line number 2 negative, we will be checking diode number 2. So as I have shown you, this got a reading 0.42, this got a reading 0.42, this got a reading of 0.47, and this got a reading of 0.43. So they are all correct. Okay? If a value is less than maybe a 0.1 something, that diode portion may be leaky or it got a sickness. But as long as the value is around less than 0.5, 0.4 something, the diode is intact. It's correct. Okay? So that's it, guys. That's the way how to check a diode. So for a bridge diode, there are 4 terminals. The positive terminal, the negative terminal, line number 1, and line number 2. Okay? So to check the diodes inside, you should know the polarity of its terminal. Okay? Because without knowing it, okay, you don't know how a diode operates. A diode will operate if the anode is positive with respect to the cathode. It is something like that. That's the basic concept. For a diode to conduct, the anode should be positive with respect to the cathode. Okay? That's it, guys. That's the way how to connect a bridge. To check a bridge diode using a multi-tester. Okay? You should know the correct polarity and how to connect it to the terminals, because if you made a mistake on the connection of the terminals, you will not be checking the diode in the correct way. So like what I said, for diodes to conduct, the anode should be positive with respect to the cathode. Okay? I will repeat it. For the first alternation, current will be coming from line number 1. It passes through diode number 2. It will enter the positive terminal. It will pass through the load. It will come out at the negative terminal. It will pass through diode number 2. Then it will go back to line number 2. That's for the positive alternation. For the second half, negative alternation, current will be coming from line number 2. Okay, it will pass through diode number 3. Then it will enter the passive terminal. Okay, it will pass through the load. It will come out to the negative terminal. It will pass through diode number 4, then go back to line number 1. That's for the negative alternation. So for each alternation, there are 2 diodes conducting. For the first alternation, it will be diode number 1 and diode number 2. For the second alternation, it will be diode number 3 and diode number 4. This is the entry point to the load. This is the exit point going to the line where it came from. Okay, that's it guys. That's the way how to check a bridge diode using a multitester. And at least you know how the current flows inside the diodes. So when you try to connect the multitester, it will be with the correct polarity. And if with the correct polarity, of course, you are checking the diode correctly. Good evening or good morning from Los Angeles. This is Professor David J. De Los Reyes.